I'd like to welcome Coach Brendan Daly to the podcast this week. A very special guest. I just want to say thank you for doing this, first of all. Going into the Super Bowl week, how does it feel and what is it like for you, knowing you've done this a few times now?
Well, it's an awesome feeling and certainly a ton of gratitude and thankful for the opportunity for sure. It takes a lot of work to get to this point. So there's a bit of a sigh, and it's a very brief one because, it's chaotic a little bit. You enjoy it a little bit right there after the game, and the next morning, it's flipping the script very quickly and trying to, process the championship game and then on to the next. And there's quite a bit of logistics and, just organization, figuring out, all the stuff that goes along with the Super Bowl, if you will, along with game planning. I would say, having done it a few times, you understand how to compartmentalize and where you need to, deviate and spend time and get things taken care of on the front end so that you can, focus in, as you get into the legitimate prep stuff.
You've coached now in 9 of the last 11 Super Bowls, so I feel like you probably have a routine.
Pretty amazing. It's been a great run.
You coached in 9 of the last 11. How do you feel like the logistics of everything, you kind of understand that and know, hey, this is what I need to do this time, this day, and maybe you're just a little bit more comfortable at this point, even though this is the biggest game in the world?
Yeah, I would say that is the case. I mean, there's a little less frazzled and, scramble type of a mode just because you understand, okay, I've done this, I can, get this done now, I'll deal with that later, and just kind of being able to organize your time a little bit more appropriately. That does help,
Having 6 Super Bowl rings right now, I know that is special, and I'm sure each one is special, but that's something that not a lot of people can say, let alone, people give everything for one, and you got 6 of them going for 7. How special do you realize that is?
I do realize that it's a pretty unique experience, and it's been an awesome run. I also, there's a time to reflect on that, and it's somewhere in the future and not now.
Yeah.
The focus right now for, without question is what you're doing at the moment, and it's such an overwhelming task in the team that we're playing and all that goes into this game and the prep that you got to be dialed in and focused on what you're doing now. And there'll be a time to reflect back on, the totality of it all somewhere down the road. But you want to take advantage of every opportunity you've got. And it never gets old, I can tell you that.
What has been the feeling in the building this year, just knowing first ever three-peat in NFL history, and that's something that, obviously you win a Super Bowl and you're very happy. You win another one, you're very happy. But I feel like the focus for your team this year has been, hey, we want to be the first one to do this. This is something that, we can achieve that nobody else has.
Yeah, I think that's something that, it does get mentioned. It is out there and it's, in the atmosphere. And I think no one is afraid to talk about those goals. What's amazed me, though, about this team and the group of players that we have, coaches that we have, is their ability to focus, week in and week out on the task at hand and deal with the day, if you will, and not worry about the big picture, but focus on getting better each and every day, focus on this game, focus on this practice, this meeting, whatever the case may be, and then put your best foot forward and let the results speak for themselves. And I think that's the challenge we've got right now, again, this week, or 2 weeks, I guess, in the prep for this game. Obviously everyone, wants to accomplish that goal and the big picture of that goal, but there's a process that goes into it, and we're not going to deviate from that process that's gotten us to where we're at.
A quick side story here. With the state championships in Illinois for high school being, the day after Thanksgiving, the weekend after Thanksgiving, me working for Channel 1450 and covering SHG in Rochester, my family has just gotten used to me being gone that weekend because they know one of those two teams is going to be there. For you and your family, the last 9 of the 11, you've been working into deep February, or early February. So what is that like for your family, just knowing, hey, we'll see Dad maybe Valentine's Day?
Yeah, you know what? It's been an interesting deal, and my kids are fantastic. But I've got a daughter who's 13 right now. I mean, she has no recollection of not going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And my son is 18, and not much different. And I've got another daughter who's 15 right now. So, anyway, a couple years ago, my daughters, when they were young, asked me the question. I don't know when it was before Christmas. It was somewhere in December, and they said, "Dad, wait a minute. When do we go to the Super Bowl?" And I said, "Whoa, hold on here, hold on. That's not how this works." But yeah, they have gotten a great privilege, and they enjoy it, But yeah, it becomes a long season. There's a lot of football.
I want to go back to last week's game real quick and just get your reaction. When Spags dials up the corner blitz on 4th and 5, what goes through your head knowing, man, this is a play that not a lot of defensive coordinators would call this in this spot?
Yeah, you know what? Honestly, that was a fantastic call by him. And I'll give you a little bit of backstory on it. We had worked all week. They go for a lot of 4th downs. We knew that this game, we anticipated that it would come down to, some critical 3rd, 4th down stop type situations. I would say we've probably got a pretty decent tendency in those situations defensively to call all-out man pressures. And we've done that specifically against the Bills over the years. It feels like a division game when we played them. We played them so many times over the years. So they know them. They know us rather. We know them. We fully anticipated they would be expecting an all-out man blitz in that situation. Spags called the corner blitz, but it wasn't a man pressure. It was a zone pressure. And it was coming right off of the 2-minute warning. So there was a lot of, some downtime there before that critical call was made. And he initially went with the call, Willie Dusweek, that we ran, and then kind of hedged and went back and thought about second-guessing himself and going to an all-out blitz. And he set it on the headset and to kind of Nick Bolton, our linebacker, on the field. And I've learned over the years, when you're working with guys, you know when to speak and when not to speak. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, don't do it, don't change it, stay with your call, trust your gut. But I didn't want to cloud his thought process in that moment. And he ended up coming back to his original call. This is over the course of the whole 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
And so we went with it. And, to Buffalo's credit, they had a phenomenal play design in terms of their formation, in terms of their motion, in terms of what they had dialed up. And if we had been in that all-out man pressure, they had a great play on for that situation. And Josh Allen would have known it was coming. He would have known where he was going with the ball. We were going to have a hard time covering it, to be quite honest. And so, there's a chess match within that thing, and I think he didn't necessarily know what was coming. To be quite honest, they had 2 guys running, uncovered on the down. We had 2 guys unblocked in the protection. It was a matter of somebody was going to, out-execute the other. And fortunately, we came out on the positive end of that thing. But it was a fascinating football sequence,
Obviously, you're a very talented head coach, or very talented coach. Do you ever think about the opportunities that you've gotten in terms of the coaches that you've coached under, starting, playing for Ken Leonard and then going to Bill Belichick and now Andy Reid and Spags? I mean, not many people have that sort of a lineup in their repertoire.
It's a pretty amazing group. You're right. There's no question. I've been fortunate. That's the only way I can describe it. I've learned a lot from all of those guys. And to be honest, there's a lot of fantastic coaches without the accolades of those 3 that I've worked for over the years and learned a ton from. But yeah, it's a pretty amazing list of the elite of the elite at what they do, to be quite honest.
For you to be on the defensive side of things, when there's a guy named Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce on the other side, the offense gets a lot of the attention. The Chiefs' defense has been the reason that you guys have won the last couple of years. And what is that like for you to be, in the room with the defense, knowing, hey, we may not get all the headlines, but we're the reason we're winning these games?
Well, I think that's, I don't know. We win these things together, and I will tell you from a defensive standpoint, knowing that you've got Patrick Mahomes on the other side of the coin on this thing, you're in every game. You know that, and it doesn't matter where the score goes. You're going to be in every game, and we got a group of guys that, and I would say this for the offensive guys as well on this team. Nobody's concerned about who gets the credit. Nobody's concerned about the stats. Nobody's concerned about the individual awards. We got a group that's very team-oriented, that's focused on the goals and the task at hand, and they are the bigger goals, not the individual goals. And I think that's been a big part of our success is that the guys that we've got are wired that way. The coaching staff that we have is wired that way, and that's been a big part of why we've been able to sustain success.
You were a defensive line coach. Now you're the linebackers coach. Playing Philadelphia next week, I have to ask the question, with the emergence of the tush push and how that play has come into the NFL, what does that do for you on the defensive side of the ball, and how do you prepare for that, knowing not only do they have Jalen Hurts and that offensive line, but they got a guy named Saquon Barkley back there as well?
Yeah, it's a challenge. I haven't dealt with the short yardage side of this thing yet, but I know what's coming. We're into the early down prep, but it's there. We played them last year in the regular season. We obviously played them a couple of years ago in the Super Bowl, so we're very familiar with their situation, how good they are at executing that play. It poses a tremendous challenge, but I would say it's one that we're going to embrace. It's one that we're going to put all of our energy and effort into figuring it out. Buffalo, I would say, ran that play extremely well also, and we were able to get a couple of critical stops on it in the game on Sunday. So hopefully we can repeat some of that success, although Philadelphia runs, a different variation of it for sure and has some really good compliments. They do a great job all the way across the board, but certainly their short yardage package is more than formidable.
All right, last question for you. I need some advice. I got a 5-year-old. I got a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. My wife is due in March. What's different about 3, and how do you prepare as a dad?
Zone defense, man. You're out of man-to-man at that point. It gets chaotic for sure. I've got 3, and there's some juggling. Take deep breaths and stay calm. That's my best advice.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your time. Best of luck this week and next week, and go win another one, man.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you having me on, and congratulations on the expectancy of the third child. That's awesome, man.
Awesome. Thank you so much.